The next one is Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. This is my first John Green book. I have never read The Fault in Our Stars, believe it or not, or Paper Towns or anything like that. This is a lot less exciting than the others. It's more calm, more emotional, and like there's more romance and stuff in this one. It isn't my favourite. I'd say it's my least favourite out of this list, but I still like it. It's more of a romance, but involving American teenagers in high school, and it does address lots of social issues like mental health stigmas and stuff like that. There's some really interesting characters. I really like both the Will Graysons and I like Jane. I really like Gideon as well, but he could have been included in a lot more because at the end he finishes up quite significant and he does lots, and you just don't know who he is because he has pretty much not been in the rest of the book. I was sort of on the fence about Tiny the whole way through because he was fun and stuff like that, but he was a pretty bad friend to Will Grayson number 1, and in some of the bits with Will Grayson number 2, like on the swing set and stuff, he was just really ignorant and a bit attention seeking, so didn't particularly like him, if I'm being honest. This book was definitely a bit lighter and easier to understand. However, I think it could have been more about the two Will Graysons together, because from the blurb, which says, one cold night in a most unlikely corner of Chicago, two strangers cross paths. Two teens with the same name, running in two very different circles, suddenly find their lives going in new and unexpected directions, culminating in heroic turns of heart and the most epic musical ever to grace the high school stage. That sort of makes it feel like, to me, that Will Grayson and Will Grayson are going to be very involved with each other, and meeting each other is going to change everything for them. But it's not like that. It's more they meet and then they meet each other's friends and end up liking each other's friends rather than each other. I don't know, I feel like it could be more centered around those two when they are together rather than Will number 2 and Tiny and Will number 1 and Jane, and you know. Even though this wasn't one of my absolute favourites, I'm still including it in this video because I'm just used to reading more murdery stuff rather than high school romances. So if you're not into what all the other books are about, then I think you will quite like this. It's really well written and stuff like that. It's just that it's not my type of plot. Next one is Severed Heads, Broken Hearts by Robin Schneider. This is so much like a John Green book, it's not even funny. So if you like John Green, you will definitely like this. Like, even the reviews, one of them says, I couldn't help but think of John Green's novels. I think his fans will eat this up. And the other one says, maybe it's time to expand your list of literary crushes to include someone other than Augustus Waters. So like everything people are saying about this is related to John Green, and I can see why, because it's a very similar storyline. Again, it's not quite as insane as some of the others here. It's again set in an American high school. I think they're a bit older than the people in Will Grayson though. But it is quite emotional, and there are some plot twists and stuff, just not deaths, which the other ones have as their plot twists. This is the closest to a romance out of all of these. In fact, I probably would say that it is a romance. As I said, it's set in an American high school, but the characters are like 17. I don't know how the American school system works. And it's about a boy called Ezra Faulkner, who is the most popular boy in the school until he is in a car crash and he shatters his knee or something, which isn't a spoiler, again, that happens at the start of the book. And his previous life sort of falls apart, which in my opinion is actually mainly his fault, but I will let you interpret what you will from the book. He joins the weird group of his school with one of his ex-best friends, figures out they're actually nicer than the popular group, which I mean is fairly true to life, and falls in love with this new girl called Cassidy Thorpe. That's about as much as I can say without any spoilers. As I said, there are a load of plot twists, so it is still quite exciting, even though it's not quite as intense. The only thing is there are a lot of unnecessary characters and not much character development on any of them, which is a bit off-putting from the general plot. And the ending sort of just feels like they got bored of writing and decided to just finish it off so they could start something new. It doesn't feel very finished, or, you know, sort of doesn't feel like closure on anything that happens in the book. It just feels like it just got cut off, sort of. But I do like the majority of this book. As I said, quite emotional, quite romantic. If you're into that type of thing, you'll love it. And last but definitely not least is The Ballroom by Anna Hope, which I think I have mentioned in some of my old videos on this channel because I read it a while ago, which are now private, probably. This is very different to what I usually read. It's set in an asylum in the early 1900s. The three main characters are a man called John and a woman called Ella, who are patients at the asylum and probably shouldn't have been, but it was the early 1900s. And the asylum's head musician and doctor, Charles. There's also some other main characters like Clem and Dan who are other patients in the asylum. However, it is written from the point of view of John, Ella and Charles. I really like all of the main characters other than Charles. John and Dan are really funny, I really like them, and Clem and Ella are people that I can imagine existing today, which is quite interesting. Basically, at Sharston, which is what the asylum's called, men and women are separated, but once a week some of them are selected to go into the ballroom and dance together. And that's how John and Ella meet. And it's kind of all centred around the whole separation thing and, you know, what it's like inside the asylum. I can't really say any more without spoiling it, but it is really, really gripping. I started it a while ago and read like the first 3 chapters and then sort of forgot about it and then read the rest of it in a week when I found it again, which is quite rare for me because I have a lot of other hobbies and don't really get much time for reading very often. I think the character development on Charles is really interesting and it could be interpreted in lots of different ways. I personally see it as his own mental health deteriorating as a result of all of the proposals from Parliament about obviously his job at the asylum, and also it's quite obvious by the end of the book that he's gay, and that was not very accepted or anything in the early 1900s. Obviously he would have been either killed or put on some sort of treatment or like imprisoned. I mean, it was illegal, wasn't it? And he would lose his job and everything. So I personally see it as his mental health deteriorating to the point where he should probably be one of the patients. Dropped the book, okay. He should probably be one of the patients in Sharston rather than the doctor. I wasn't that happy with the ending. Like Severed Heads, Broken Hearts, it sort of felt like they sort of just got bored of writing or had to meet a deadline and like cut off the storyline so they could meet it, which I mean, we've all done that. I just don't like how much is missed out and then at the end it's just all there, and there's so many significant things that happened that the book just misses. Like one of the main characters literally dies and it's just skimmed over on the last page and there's nothing else about it, which doesn't feel right. But overall it's a really good book and I would definitely recommend you read it. Thankfully that is the end of this video because I've been filming for over half an hour. Hopefully I managed to edit it down a little bit shorter than that, but if not, sorry and well done for watching this far. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.